going to be documenting a trip that I took earlier this year in my traveler's notebook. Now, whether you call that journaling or scrapbooking or both is up to you. Also, it's my birthday on the day I'm posting this. I'm going to be working in the Traveler's Company regular size insert today and using a Chic Sparrow narrow size cover. This is their Cascade TN in the leather Jaffe, which sadly is retired. This is one of my all-time favorites. It's so beautiful, my goodness. And I've got a couple of Traveler's Company charms on there. So back in February, I took a trip to visit my family up in the Catskills. They like to ski. I don't, but I like to visit them when they do. And so I picked up a trail map and this magazine at the lodge. I like to pick up little paper souvenirs like this when I can, just because I feel like it makes journaling when I get home a lot more fun. I have basically some new supplies that I can work with that are specific to that trip, and it helps me kind of remember what it was like when we were there. I also started printing out some little mini photos using my Canon Ivy printer. It prints on zinc paper, so it doesn't require any extra ink cartridges, just the paper, and the paper itself is adhesive, so the photos just stick on the page when I'm ready to put them down. And I haven't had too many problems with this printer. It does overheat, so if you're printing a lot of photos in a row, definitely give it a break after 5 or 6 or so. And once I started doing that, I had less problems with it. I also keep it plugged in when I can because it does use up the battery pretty fast when you print a bunch of photos in a row. While I'm waiting for those to print, I also started flipping through the magazine just to see if there were any photos that I wanted to use on the pages. And I don't have a ton of space. I basically just allocated one spread for this trip because it was just a weekend. But I found this photo of the ski lift, and so I cut that out. I'm also gonna save this magazine for the next time I go on any kind of winter or ski-related trip because there's plenty of stuff in here that I can use in a future journal entry, even if it's not for this weekend in particular. And if you're wondering, I only put the post-it notes over the photographs just because I wasn't sure if the people in the photos wanted to be in the video. I didn't have a chance to ask them, so. The trail map itself ended up being much more interesting to me, and I decided that I wanted to use as much of it as I could. I just want to put the whole trail map across the pages, basically. And so I cut that out. I probably should have measured how wide the Traveler's Notebook pages are, but I just kind of eyeballed it, and it worked out okay. I also love a good torn edge. It's a really good way to make things not exact on purpose. I find that if I try to be too exact with these things, it ends up looking unintentional, and this way it kind of feels like it was supposed to be a little bit off, you know? And it takes less time also, so that helps as well. The way I ended up attaching this was to kind of push down on the center where the fold of the page is going to be, and then just put my tape runner down that fold. That way I could get the middle all settled, and then I could attach the sides and smooth them down completely, because I was very concerned that there was going to be some sort of air bubble, and I want to make sure that my journal will close properly. I don't mind if it's kind of full looking, but if there's air, I don't like that as much. I've also learned that a little goes a long way with these tape runners. They are expensive, and I don't want to use them up faster than I need to. But I just kind of put little dots all around the edges, on the corners, and I only ever do like a full long strip in the middle where I want to make sure that it's really attached. Someone recently asked me how I know what to put down first when I'm doing a collage, and my answer is usually, what do I want to be all the way in the background? What do I want to pile other things on top of? And so in this case, it was the map. I wanted the map to be behind everything, so it made sense to put that down first. And if you're not entirely sure and you're just kind of figuring it out as you're going along, you can pile more things on top of it to get it to look right. I tried not to put too much pressure on myself, and I know sometimes it can feel like a big commitment to glue something down in a way that you can't remove, but you can always change what's on top of that, you know? And so just kind of go for it, and you'll get a feel for your style as you get more practice. You also don't have to glue everything down right away. You can pile things up just to see how they look and move things around and get a visual idea of what you're about to do. And then maybe take a picture of it on your phone so you remember how it looked, and then take it apart and put down everything in order once you've planned it out. And that's what I'm doing here. I was pretty sure about the map, so I put that down right away. I just committed to it, but everything else I kind of moved around and didn't glue anything down until I was happy with the way all of it looked. But then I remembered that I had that ski lift photo and I wanted to try and figure out where that fit in. So I kind of moved that around and tried to experiment with how I wanted to layer it. I also very carefully tried to tear just the bottom edge of this. It turned out okay in the end, but I wish I had thought of that before I had already cut pretty close to the edge of the photo. And I'm pretty happy with that, actually. So I moved the photo out of the way, tore a little bit more of it just for fun, and used my tape runner. It's a Tombow Mono Dots adhesive, which is probably my favorite tape runner so far. I really like it. And went ahead and placed that one down before I put the photo on top of it. And I initially wasn't entirely sure where I wanted the name of the ski mountain to go on this spread, but as you start to put things in place, I find that it's easier to figure out the leftovers and decide where you want those to go. So it was pretty clear that I wanted this to be up on the top right side, and so I went ahead and glued that down once I made that decision. Journaling, at least for me, is a lot of very tiny decisions, and I can choose to stress over them, or I can just let go and see what happens and fix things as I go. And now I'm going to go ahead and make a mistake. And it's a mistake that I realized I made after I finished filming this and that I did fix later. And that is that I got out my date stamp, which I try to use pretty much every page in this particular notebook because I like to have the date of whatever I'm documenting on the page. And I love the look of this date stamp. It's a self-inking one and it's great. But I forgot, this was the first thing that I did in 2022 in this notebook, and I forgot to change the year. I don't get to do that as often on this stamp, and we were well past New Year's, so I wasn't in the mindset of actively changing the year in my head. So yeah, it says 2021 lots of times on these pages, and I later just went in with a marker and wrote a 2 over the 1, and it was fine. Not a big deal in the scheme of things, but it was something that happened that I was like, man, when I realized probably weeks later that I had done that. And you can see here that I also put this writing board from Traveler's Company underneath the page because otherwise these particular stamps have a lot of trouble actually reaching. Because of the little cage that's around the stamp, you need a very flat surface for it to work. And so I did my best to try and make the surface as flat as I could. So I knew that I wanted to pull in some travel-themed stickers for this spread, and so I grabbed this set that I purchased a long time ago from Everyday Explorers Co. I don't know if they still have this available, but they do have some stamps that look the same, so you could check and see if they have those. And so there were a lot of red stickers on here, and I liked the little bits of red on the trail map, so I thought that that would be a good way to pull that color out. So I just kind of looked through everything, made my decisions, and grabbed those stickers. At the time, I hadn't realized that some of the stickers were actually clear, so you could see the map through them, and it was a little bit hard to read them, but that's okay. You learn. And I ended up really liking the way that the whole spread turned out. The composition was really pleasing to my eye, at least, and so it worked out okay. It's, low stakes here, folks. When I decided I was done with that, I went ahead and tucked those back into the secretarial pocket in the back of this journal cover. The Chic Sparrow deluxe covers, the Cascade ones, have a lot of pockets, so plenty of places to put stuff like that, which is really great. And then I also added a couple of pieces of washi tape. This is kind of a blue, classic-y brand, like book print that I really like. And it blended into the map in a way that it was fine. I picked it because it matched, and It ended up being a little bit hard to see it, but I think it's okay. Once I am totally happy with where everything is on the page, I fill in all of the remaining empty spaces with handwriting, and I write about what happened that day, any little memories that I want to make sure I remember. On this particular spread, I didn't leave a ton of space for writing, and that ended up being okay because I did wait at least a few months until we got back to actually write in here. I do have a journal that I write in more often, and usually the day of, so that I remember more things about the trip, or just a regular day if it just happens to be a regular day at home. And so I have another journal that I had written about this trip in that I could kind of refer back to, so I would remember what we did on each of the individual days. I end up writing in this particular journal and actually putting in photos usually pretty late after the trips, just because, you know, when you get home from a trip, it's a little bit stressful. I'm catching up on work, and so I don't always have time to sit down and do this intense of a scrapbooking session. So I like to write down kind of right away in a different notebook, and then I come in here when I have time to work in this journal. And there we go. This is how the journal spread turned out. I ended up being really happy with this one. I love that I got all of those extra pieces from the trail map and the magazine, and I think it added a whole lot to the way that this spread looks. I love all the colors. I love the kind of blue and red. This is a journal that I really enjoy working in, and I honestly wish that I worked in it more often. I wish I had the time to work in it more often, because this is the kind of scrapbook that I like to look back at later. This is where I go when I want to remember what a trip was like, or when I want to remember what the past year was like. It's a lot of fun to look back at. I can share it with people. This is the kind of journal that I handed over to my dad at Christmas and just let him flip through it so he could see all the fun stuff that we did that year. And I don't know, I really enjoy it. I hope that you enjoyed watching the process of it come together. And let me know if you'd like to see more videos of me working in this particular traveler's notebook. I have lots of different kinds of journals and different approaches to journaling that I post about on this channel, but you know, it helps me to see what you get most excited about and what you like the most, for sure. It can help be motivating for me as well. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe so you don't miss it the next time I post a video. I post journaling content at least once a week, sometimes twice, and I'd love to have you back. I hope you're having a really good day, and I will see you next time.